All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this month's AI Club speaker series. We are thrilled to have you with us for another engaging and informative session. As part of our commitment to fostering an educational and interactive environment, please adhere to these following guidelines. Utilize the chat feature for any questions you may have during the presentation to assure a streamlined and organized discussion. Should we encounter any technical difficulties, please remain calm and rejoin the session using the same link that was provided. Additionally, please note that this session is being recorded for future reference and educational purposes. We are delighted to welcome our esteemed speakers, so let's dive into the exciting world of AI together. So to start us off with, Ted, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about the club and why we're here. Take it away.
Hey, everybody. I'm Tedman from Redmond, and I work for CIO National. We provide strategic services to CIOs. And the reason that we exist is Brad and I were networking on LinkedIn. And about 15 years ago, we were members of a very successful networking group called SharePoint Users Group. And that was the model that eventually rolled out almost everywhere with the format. And we said, hey, why don't we do the same thing for AI so we can learn from other people and produce an environment where anybody can ask questions from any skill level. And what we like to do is ask speakers for use cases rather than just theory or features. What makes us different is that we have use cases from all the speakers. And Dean's going to have some exciting use cases. And I'll turn it back over to Brad now. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. We appreciate it.
All right. Thanks a lot, Ted. And yeah, I'm looking very much forward to Dean's presentation. He has some exciting things to talk about. But before we get there, I have what we call our AI Insight Minute, where I go over some of the news, the latest news of AI that I found out there. So, good evening, and in today's AI Insight Minute, we have got some exciting developments from the world of artificial intelligence and software enhancements. First up, Microsoft has just announced a significant update for all the users of its popular tool, Copilot. In an effort to democratize AI technology, Microsoft has integrated the advanced GPT-4 Turbo language model into its free version of Copilot. This enhancement aims to provide users with more accurate and faster responses, elevating the overall user experience. Whether you're coding, composing emails, creating content, Copilot is now more powerful than ever. But that's not all from this tech giant. Copilot Pro users aren't left behind. While they can still opt in for the older model, they now have exclusive access to the Copilot GPT Builder. This new feature allows users to create custom chatbots with any need for programming expertise, opening up a new realm of possibilities for businesses and individuals alike. Moving on in the AI sector, Anthropic has made waves with the release of Claude 3. While this new model has gained popularity for its efficiency, users noted a change in the prompting style required. In response to this, Anthropic has curated an extensive prompt library assisting users in navigating these changes. The library aims to enhance interactions with Claude 3 by providing effective prompts for a multitude of tasks and subjects, making the AI more accessible and user-friendly. I've also looked at this prompt library, and you're able to use the prompts in other GPT models as well, or large language models as well. And in a surprising turn of events, OpenAI just let the cat out of the bag on their next big projects, or did they? A blog post announcing the GPT 4.5 Turbo model was briefly published and indexed by search engines like Bing and DuckDuckGo before being hastily removed. This new model, as per the leaked details, is set to surpass the capabilities of GPT-4, GPT-4 Turbo, boasting improved speed, accuracy, scalability, Notably, it mentions the knowledge cutoff date was June of 2004, which I thought was very interesting. And it expanded 256K context window. OpenAI has remained very tight-lipped since the incident, leaving the tech community buzzing with speculation. It's clear that the landscape of artificial intelligence is evolving at an unprecedented pace, reshaping how we interact with technology on a daily basis. We'll be sure to keep you updated in future editions of the AI Insight Minute. So let's continue with our guest speaker, Ted. Let's get the ball rolling. Please please go ahead and introduce Dean, and we'll get started.
Okay, great. Thanks everybody for joining. Dean Tammam is a very experienced and broad depth IT professional. He's going to talk to us today about offline LLMs. And I would really like to talk about it too, but I'm going to turn it back over to Dean so that he can kind of show us some live demos with his use cases. Just by the way, I have been meeting with Dean, got me into AI, and this was over a year ago. And so we've been trying to meet once a week. We've probably invested 40 to 60 hours in meetings past year. And he's a great person to learn from. So without further ado, take it away, Dean.
Thank you very much. All right. So hello all, and thank you for the time to meet. I'm really excited to be meeting with you today. And I'm thrilled to discuss a topic that I believe is not only intriguing, but really relevant to our shared interests. So if we're all here, then you have some interest in AI. I promise it's going to be thought-provoking, and hopefully you enjoy it. Let's dive into it. So my name is Dean, and I'm an IT pro with over a decade of professional experience across multiple verticals. I've become a friend of Tedman from Redmond over the last few years, and we've bonded over programming, arcade technologies, and recently AI developments as they've started becoming mainstream. I'm a husband and a dad, and this is a picture of my daughter, Daisy. She's really fun, and she's asking all kinds of fun questions now. I also love walking while working. I'm currently walking right now, and I'm up to like 17 miles right now today. I virtually got across the country last year, so it's just been a lot of fun, and I just love doing it. And with regards to today's meeting, I've been pretty much obsessed with generative AI technology since they've been made available. And I've been experimenting with large language models for all sorts of use cases, both personally and professionally, from programming to fitness to fun to therapy. With that, I'd like to discuss the objectives of today's call. I have 4 specific goals in mind. I want to educate you on the definition of a large language model and have you try one out. I'd like to personally introduce you to the concept of an offline or local large language model. I want to show you an example of it in action, potential use cases, and I want to provide you with potential next steps if you're curious and you want to go further. This is going to be a mid-level session. We're going to get into some technical definitions and discuss use cases, but I won't go much further than that since there's a lot to discuss from a practical usability level. I'll stay high level in the sense that I'll express some of the potential implications of local LLM developments that you can take with you for further pondering. And if you have any specific questions, please ask them in the chat and I'll do my best to answer any and all toward the end. So with that, I'd like to communicate an important idea early here. AI as we know it is really 2 big ideas: artificial narrow intelligence and artificial general intelligence. When we talk about AI, we're really referencing artificial narrow intelligence. And this is the type of system that's been shaping our lives for years now. Think about Facebook ads, playlist recommendations, smart speakers, and now chatbots that can synthesize the internet for us. Artificial general intelligence, or AGI, is a theoretical type of AI that can do anything a human can do, as opposed to these small slices of optimized skills. There's been monumental progress in artificial narrow intelligence, but seemingly little for artificial general intelligence. We're going to be discussing artificial narrow intelligence today. I found that successfully navigating into a new domain requires an understanding of key definitions for the topic. We have a few to go over today, and let's start by discussing large language model itself. According to Gardner, it's a specialized type of artificial intelligence that has been given vast amounts of text to understand existing content and generate original content. According to GPT-4 itself, it's a type of artificial intelligence that processes and generates human-like text based on vast amounts of data. It's kind of fun to use a large language model to define it. It's a little bit meta, and I like it. This wasn't really initially apparent to me, and it might not have been for you either. But an LLM, or a large language model, is both the type of model and the products that the companies are making. The term large language model and model are being used interchangeably. So for example, OpenAI has their own models, GPT-3 and GPT-4. Those are OpenAI's proprietary models. Meta and Google have created their own as well, along with many other companies. This presentation will get a little bit interactive. So speaking of all these systems, can I get a thumbs up reaction from anyone who has used ChatGPT? I just want to get a sense of what this looks like. Cool. I would expect. So it seems like most people have. Cool. If you haven't, that's totally fine. You're going to interact with an LLM today. I thought it was worth explicitly mentioning the system that brought most of us here together. ChatGPT changed the world in November of 2022 and is forcing us to reckon with a new reality, a new future. I'd like to share a visual representation to clarify this concept and definition. So ChatGPT is an interface to these LLMs. ChatGPT itself is not a large language model. It's a really common misconception, and it took a bit for me to click. So again, ChatGPT itself is not actually a large language model. As you can see in the representation, it's simply the front-end interface to accessing the models. Microsoft's Copilot, which we'll be going over in a little bit, and ChatGPT both leverage OpenAI's GPT-4 model. The interface is just a means to get to the LLM inside. I personally found this confusing, but it started to click after I played with all these different systems and saw the different options. Another thing to remember is that model and large language model are interchangeable. And if you want to kind of get a grasp of it when you play with it, in ChatGPT, you can click the drop down and see the different options you have of models between GPT-4 and 3.5. Another key term is half of the name of the product we've come to know and love, the GPT in ChatGPT. A GPT is a generative pre-trained transformer. It's a large language model architecture. It's a type of large language model that was invented by Google in 2017. OpenAI took that concept and ran away with it starting in 2018 with their GPT-1. And the whole key behind it is that it generates text by predicting the next word in a sequence based on the words that came before it. GPTs are not the only types of large language models. There are others that exist for other purposes, but as far as consumer grade chatbots that are for text prediction and text creation, we mostly see GPTs. So if you'd be interested, I'd like you to try using a free and easy to use large language model. It'll take about a minute, but if you'd be curious, you can open up a browser tab and go to copilot.microsoft.com. This is Microsoft's portal to access their large language model, which is completely free. Doesn't require a login, doesn't require any subscription. And if you'd be curious to, go to that website and just type in what is an LLM and see what you get. So I'll give you guys like 20, 30 seconds here if you want to give it a shot. And if you do this, you might notice the response you get has something to do with like master of laws. Not actually what we're looking for with the term LLM. If that happens, it might be because the prompt was not specific enough. So you can actually experiment this further. So you could clarify it and say something like, what is a large language model? And see new results. If you've actually tried this, you're now part of the AI age. You've used and interacted with a large language model, and trying a different prompt is considered prompt engineering. The actual large language model you'd be using with this interface is GPT-4 in the background of Microsoft's Copilot product. While most of you have used a large language model before, I'm happy that we're experiencing one together today and that you're developing a deeper understanding about what's actually going on. I'd like to now propose a new idea. Have you ever thought about something like ChatGPT, but without the internet? Like, what happens if you find yourself stuck in the woods with a laptop and no service for miles, and you got to figure out how to make a fire? What if you need a custom model that isn't limited by the constraints put in place by these companies like OpenAI or Google? This is called an offline large language model or a local large language model, and it's a subset of the field that's getting a lot of traction. Personally investing time and energy understanding these not only gets you custom solutions, but it lets you save money. You can get some features out of these systems that you would from ChatGPT or other products without needing a subscription. I'd like to take you back and remember some tech history from the recent past. from around the time that I was born and that most of you likely remember more than I do. You remember Netscape, Netscape Navigator? The browser that was the driving cause behind Microsoft's antitrust lawsuit in the 2000s? Yeah, that one. It turns out that the owner and the creator of that, Mark Andreessen, has been busy making billions over the past 3 decades. He started a venture capital firm which provided a grant to a fine gentleman who goes by the name of Tom Jobbins, or the Bloke online. Tom is a self-described purveyor of fine local large language models for our fun and profit, and man, is he doing great work. He takes these models from companies like Meta and Mistral, compresses them down, and makes them available for use on consumer-grade hardware. Not only that, he hosts them for folks to download all for free. He's an incredibly important person in this world of offline or local models, and if you look into this at all, you're going to see his websites, and he's going to become a figure that you're aware of. Let's go back in time one more time. You remember iTunes, that thick client which let you play, download, import local media files? Yeah, me too. In our day and age, it's a lot of streaming, so we kind of abstracted that consideration out, but we can get a similar thick client to deal with in much the same way for these models. We provide a local model as input. It's a .gguf file most of the time, and we get to leverage this local large language model player to run them. There are a few popular options out there now, but my personal favorite is LM Studio. And these act as the ChatGPT or the front-end interface you'll be using to interface with the models directly on your own machines. Now let's talk about something we can actually do with these models. There are some relevant things that we can do now and some that are pretty easy to foresee. As for today, you can use offline models to better understand how models work. So if you're just like fascinated with these systems at all, you can test different strategies without being limited by a cloud provider. You can really work on trying to understand why these systems output the results they do. One of the big terms in the industry is explainability, and it's a very hard problem in this space to understand exactly why a model produces the output that it does. It's just very complicated and it's not really straightforward. You can also test the guardrails. So these models are trained with implicit biases based on the data sets provided and the culture of the companies implementing them. It's not a good or a bad thing. It's just that, you know, the people creating a thing kind of tend to put their opinions into what they create. If you've seen responses like, as a large language model, I cannot do X or something to that effect, you've experienced a guardrail. You can also get access to SaaS-style solutions at home. You can leverage extensions like the Continue extension to act as a code assistant within your IDE. And then you can see in this visual representation, there's a product that it's called GitHub Copilot. It's a code completion, code assistant product that goes right in your system. That uses the OpenAI Codex model. And with our Continue extension, you can use multiple models that you install on your own machine. So here's what it looks like. It's generally similar to the ChatGPT experience, and the speeds are highly reliant on your compute. So that'll be your computer, your processor, and your RAM for the most part. In this example, you can see that we're choosing a Code Llama Instruct model up in the top bar. We're using a specific preset configuration file in the top right, and we have it running. We then ask for code for a snake game in Python. And this is very reminiscent of the ChatGPT experience. You can go right back and forth with it. It'll give you code. It's conversational. It'll maintain the context. This is a screenshot of the server, right? So you host a local server on your own hardware, and other devices and apps can leverage it, whether it's the computer you're on or an extension or something on your own local network. You select the model to host, the preset settings for the model, and you get to see all of the requests back and forth as it goes through. Here's an example of me actually using this extension within VS Code, the Continue extension. So I'm configured to point it to my local server, which happens to be the same device that I'm running it on. And if you know PowerShell at all, this will be an interesting example. There's a little feature you can use to make some of your code behave very similar to the defaults that Microsoft provides. But I just kept forgetting the syntax. It's called commandlet bindings. So if you can see here, I actually just brought up a chat with a local model on my machine through this extension, asked it the question, and it was able to synthesize what I was looking for, give me an example, and at the end, I could just insert it directly into my code. It's a very smooth experience. Another thing to kind of contextualize all this, model size is a huge element here, right? So these are scaled down, as I mentioned earlier, but the way they're generated and provided, they go by billions of parameters. So in these open source models, the free ones that are put out there, I've seen them in the range of 2 billion to 70 billion. And for reference, ChatGPT's or OpenAI's GPT 3.5, or the one that was released in November of 2022, has 135 billion parameters. So at this moment, we're just about halfway at the level of complexity of that first monumental model that was made public for local use. It's pretty crazy. Here's a glimpse into the future of the mobile experience. So ChatGPT is great, right? But what about leveraging your phone's capabilities? Our smartphones are very capable computers. You'll see me opening the MLC chat app, and I already pre-selected the model, which you can download and save on your phone and query like you would ChatGPT. In this example, I had a list of different possible use cases. And on my phone, I'm able to get 2 and 7 billion parameter models. I don't really know if the gravity of this speed is landing, but it's really amazing to be able to do any of this on a local machine, let alone a smartphone, given that this was only made accessible to the public less than 2 years ago. Like, the pace of this decentralization and democratization is very fast. It's a truly interesting and hard-hitting thing to think about when you think about how much these systems are impacting people's lives. Like, personally, I have become a better programmer. I've become a better technologist. I've learned new interests. It's even helped with some things in my family, just learning how to be a better partner, just thinking to ask questions and, get synthesized information. Other than that, though, at the higher level, like, what's the so what? Like, what's next, right? So tactically, I'm expecting more and more models to be made, shrunk down, and made available for more purposes. Whether it's for your phone, your tablet, or your computer, I'm seeing more local hardware being used, right? And I'm not the only one. Enrique Lores, the CEO of HP, is saying that the integration of AI will be one of the largest transformations in the PC industry in decades. And I'm interpreting this as more PCs being made to run them, right? We can already see this with the Surface Laptop Studio 2. It has a specific AI accelerator chip built in to leverage Copilot in Windows 11. It's like already being made. So my high level prediction, I'm seeing a similar trend to the centralization and now decentralization of endpoint compute. We started by leveraging centralized resources in the 50s and 60s with mainframes and dummy terminals. Then we got workstations that were powerful enough to handle these tasks in a more decentralized way. Then it became more cost effective to offload that compute into the cloud or private companies' data centers such as AWS or Azure. Now companies are faced with the rising cost of cloud compute, and they're doing the math to see if it makes sense to come back down from the clouds. It's an interesting reversal. I see this playing out for these contemporary large language model style solutions in much the same way. We started by leveraging centralized resources from OpenAI with ChatGPT pointing to their own models, right? Then we gained access to APIs that we could put within our own applications. Then it became more cost effective to leverage our cloud partners like Azure, who has a direct access to the API, which they provide as part of your own infrastructure. And now I think companies are going to be faced with the rising cost of these services, and will be doing that same type of math to see if it makes sense to provide people with those models locally, whether it's their developers, their end users. I think that HP, Microsoft, and all of these other manufacturers are hedging their bets. And I think they're going to make more hardware available tailored to these potential needs, which is going to spark more local model optimization and then more use cases to be developed. And then that's going to be a virtuous cycle of more hardware sales. But that's just my 2 cents. I could be completely wrong. I just think it's really interesting to see how it's developing and try to learn from the patterns of the past to get a better understanding of what might be happening today. If this type of topic is interesting at all or inspired any curiosity, there are a lot of opportunities to learn more. Specifically, I'd recommend downloading LM Studio, looking at the Blokes repositories. You need a computer with at least 16 gigs of RAM to try it, but I would advise it. It's a really fun thing to play with, and it's way more available and accessible than you might think. I'd also highly recommend 2 specific YouTubers, AI Explained and Fireship. AI Explained is an amazing resource. He essentially reads all of the white papers that come out from all of these companies saying what these models are able to do, and he'll test them. He has a framework for rigorously testing it, and then gives us the actual like meat and potatoes of what's true. Fireship is a comical YouTuber who puts very short and sweet videos out to kind of like keep you abreast of what's going on in the industry. So he'll keep you informed and make you laugh. And that's pretty much it. That's my presentation. To recap where we are now, you now understand what a large language model is, and you've used one if you played with Copilot, specifically GPT-4. You're aware of the concept of an offline or local large language model. You've seen them in action, and you know some about the potential use cases like code completion, benchmark validation, and information with limited bias. And you're empowered with the path forward if you'd like to play with them more. I hope you enjoyed this, and thank you for attending my TED Talk, both because it feels like that and Tedman's here. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right. Thanks a lot, Dean. Great informative presentation. I do have several questions that are coming in. But one I wanted to ask first is you played around with a lot of LLMs, and it was certainly a big gotcha or a big aha moment when I realized the front end of Copilot, ChatGPT, all these other ones were just the front ends or the application that accesses the LLM. And we're able to now download and use multiple LLMs. I know I've paid my fair share of subscriptions. I'm definitely looking forward to being able to download some. But do you have any favorite, are there any differences or favorite LLMs that you've have enjoyed using or found a specific use case for a specific LLM versus another one?
I have had the best experiences so far with ChatGPT. Not to say it's any better or worse, but I've experimented with Claude, with Bard, now Gemini, with Mistral, with Gemma, with Phi. Like I've probably tried the majority of the open source models. As far as the contemporary like max power models that are available, I'd say that ChatGPT, OpenAI's products are just hard to beat. They're just really good. I think Microsoft is making strides trying to get their Copilot platform to be more inclusive and more capable, but until it's there, it's not. So I would say OpenAI's products.
Okay, cool, thanks. So do you see, I know you said you were also interested or gotten better at programming, especially PowerShell and everything. I want to just throw out a shout out to Professor Posh, who's been a great GPT help for me over the last year. So Dean, have you used any other use this for any other type of programming abilities besides programming the snake game in Python?
Oh yeah, so I've got a whole bunch of different GPTs. So if you aren't aware, anybody in the call, OpenAI has this feature where you can configure your own like restricted chatbot that's like very specific on a certain discipline. And I've got some that are like for programming specifically, which is a big part of my day-to-day job. I have some GPTs that are programmed to only give high-level guidance without a single line of code. It's literally just the principles behind like how should you do this and why. I have some that are subject matter experts in like specific languages. And then I have some that just like I give it a request and it just shares multiple possibilities. Like you have this problem, you could do A, B, or C, and here's why you do one of the other. So I like using it for day-to-day leverage. I like using it for just education and just to build and develop on principles.
Yeah, the education part is what really intrigues me. Being able to have a university of information at your fingertips, and now that you can have it on your phone, it's even better.
Yeah, I can tell you one fun use case, not related to this. But so I've really shamelessly trying it for everything. So I go to therapy, right? I tried making a bot. I went on a 2-hour walk and I just was talking to it with the voice talk feature about random things going on. And I went in to see my therapist and I brought up the bot with the chat and I said, hey, I'm actually sitting in front of him right now. Could you summarize our conversation to kind of start the session productively? And it did. And we were both sitting there just like floored for like 30 seconds. And then we got into it from that. But it was like amazing. You could try it for anything. Like, just
Yeah, I'm sure your therapist was shaking as he may not get paid the next hour.
I never
about
thought
that.
about eliminating a therapist job. That's pretty good.
All right,
Hey,
I got a question about let's see if I get the RD. Let's see, Rebecca. Rebecca, she goes, "Are you working out or powering your PC?" And then somebody said, "Why not both?" So give us a quick deal on why you're walking there.
Oh, so yeah, once the pandemic hit and I started working from home, I tried different strategies to lose weight. I was about 60, 70 pounds heavier at the time. And I just found that I really enjoyed walking, but my job is very much like I'm centered at a desk, stuck on a keyboard. And it didn't even occur to me until I saw ads for it that, oh, wait, walking treadmills exist and desks for it exist. And I tried one and it just immediately clicked. I am on this thing 8 to 10 hours a day and it just feels totally natural. I don't know. I know a handful of people on them and some look at it and say, I can't even figure how you're doing that. But I don't know. Something about it just worked.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. Now, is it powering anything, or are
No.
you just wasted energy there?
Just waste this. I'm
That's all
walking in
right.
place, getting real far,
All you
walking
do is
nowhere.
creating CO2. There you go. No, that's pretty cool. I have toyed with that several times over that as well. Ted, you got a question? Go for it.
yeah. So, Dean, have you had any experience with Gemma Mobile?
Which one? No, I don't think I have. What's that?
Oh, okay, yeah. I was looking at some mobile LLMs where you can run them locally on your
Hmm.
phone.
The one I'm aware of, it's MLC Chat. So if anybody is curious and you have a modern phone, Android or iOS, if you Google MLC Chat, you'll see a web page that will give instructions for doing it. It's completely free. It will run on any mobile phone that has more than like 2 gigs of RAM, which is basically all of them, any modern smartphone. And within like 5 minutes, you can be running a local large language model. You can turn on airplane mode and you can be chatting with it on your own phone. So if anybody's actually curious, it's super easy to try.
So if I want to learn how to fly a plane at 40,000 feet, I've got an offline LLM.
You download it before you get on the plane, and there you go. Yep.
I don't know if I'm impressed or scared with that scenario.
Yes, I
Very
mean, like,
good.
so Ted and Brad, what do you guys think about the prospect of the impacts of the offline systems? I mean, you guys are seeing probably, like, I've seen Bloomberg articles about people talking about what's going on, and it seems like it's being pushed. What do you guys think?
Ted, you want to start us off?
I'm really into the data science aspect of offline LLMs where you can control the data from a security perspective. I'm still of the paranoid mind. Both people are running hybrid clouds in the enterprise, but if I'm very paranoid about my data, I see that as a valid use case. Warehouse inventory, grocery stores, for example, chains of them. And just being able to put that somewhere that they know can be secure, that they can actually unplug it from the internet and not have a possible, or basically eliminating the barriers or making more barriers to actually get to the data. And that's where I'm coming from. That's what I've seen the biggest. What do you think, Brad?
So this whole thing that AI is going to replace our jobs and things like that, I've always it sounds too draconian for me. I think the people that won't embrace the AI or won't embrace chat GPTs and these large language models are the ones that could be left behind, right? There are some I always thought that when a new technology comes out that whatever age you are, you need to be at least aware of it so you can learn how to survive or thrive in that particular environment. And this has been a really interesting one for me. I've been in the IT industry for 25 years, and I've seen a lot of the new technology come and go, right? And the one thing that I've noticed this time around is this LLM or Chat GPT or this technology has allowed me to do things that I, in the past, could not do or took too long to do. Prime example is my PowerShell skills, right? Over this last year, I had the opportunity to work with the Microsoft 365 Microsoft 365 with a client, and we did a lot of PowerShell stuff. And basically, they gave me a requirement, and before I gave an answer, or before I said, here's what we can do, I threw it through GPT and said, or Copilot GPT, and Visual Studio Code, and it literally, gave me the direction I needed to go. If not, gave me the code that I needed to execute. And then, like I said, Tedman from Redmond introduced me to Professor Posh, and that made everything even better, right? So that's just one thing. It kind of gave me another skill that I had that I, didn't have to spend 5 years to learn, and able to turn it around and make use of it.
So it's funny you mentioned that. One of the things I've been thinking, like we've, for the last, 20, 30 years, I guess you could say we've been in the information age, right? Like
Sure.
It's been
Yeah.
I look at this new period as the knowledge age. So knowledge being applicable or applied information, you can get guidance that can be immediately used in seconds. So it's not only can you learn, but you can actually just immediately turn around and use it. I think it's really easy to get comfortable with assuming what these things say are true because they sound so confident, like the systems, the outputs. But as long as you're able to just validate it and just know that it's not a source of truth, it's just a source from whatever it was trained on.
Yeah.
It's just such a crazy efficiency boost.
Not
only is it, it just kind of, I don't know how people aren't more excited about it.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely exciting. That's for sure. I got one last question before we move on. That is, what is the instruments? Give us so not just AI, but it looks like you're a musician as well. You want to give us a 30-second intro on that?
Yeah, pretty much lifelong musician. I'm a multi-instrumentalist, having a lot of fun, mostly with guitar, but I've had to mix it up and do, drums and piano and other types of stuff. Yeah.
And a follow on, Dean, have you used any of the LLMs or AI to create your own music?
I have not, but I had fun testing the small ones. I had this really, really tiny LLM, and I wanted to test how it could go. So I'm like, hey, can you help me? I'm a novice guitarist, and I got this new guitar, and I got to change the strings. Can you help me out? And it was able to do it. And then I said, great, what kind of strings do I need? And it said steel strings. And if you know how to play guitar, it's not as simple as that. There's like a gauge and a thickness, and and I'm like, yeah, I get that it's steel, but like, what kind of strings? And it's like, no, steel strings. That's all it is. And I was like, oh, that's like kind of the limit of this tiny model. Like, good enough to tell you how to tune it and string it, but like, you can't go much further. So it's, yeah, a little music LLM experience so far.
There you go. There you go. All right. Any other questions out there? Put them in the old chat right now. All right, I'm not seeing any, I don't think. So Ted, let's go ahead and see what's going to happen on our next meeting, and then we'll go ahead and get out of here. Go ahead, Ted.
Oh, right. So, hey, you guys should be definitely tuning in next month because we have a very experienced professional, over 30 years of experience at a multitude of things from operations to development to leadership. And his name is Paul Harker. And he's the CEO of CIO National. And what will be happening is that he will start to unveil from a strategic level and a tactical level. He'll cover that a little bit about his experience in starting Azure when he was at Microsoft. And then he'll be going through other items like modern day. How do you look at AI ops? What is the definition by Gartner of AI ops, which I found to be educational from Paul. I had no idea that Gartner had actually segmented that as a definition. And I would definitely recommend that you show up. Paul's a really good speaker. And I had the fortunate opportunity to work for Paul in the past at EMC when Dell bought EMC. So back to you, Brad.
All right, sounds good. And our next meeting will be at the same time, same place on April 16th. I know that's right after tax day, so you'll be able to have a deep sigh of relief. Come join us for some good news and good discussion with Paul. And until next time, thank you very much for joining our call, and go learn something new with ChatGPT and AI. Thanks a lot, guys.